Welcome to the channel Maski Show. I'm Andriy Babkin, and here we expose the faces of aggressors. In this episode, Donald Trump has finally decided to impose sanctions, but there's a catch. Medvedev is threatening terrible vengeance. One of the most massive attacks on Kyiv took place last night. Putin has armed Kim Jong-un with new weapons. And the European Union is preparing a very unpleasant surprise for the Kremlin. There's also an unexpected statement from Lavrov and a new prisoner exchange. All that and more in today's episode. If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future updates. And yes, Medvedev is threatening revenge first thing in the morning. I get it, it's a tough Saturday for him. But even if I hadn't said it was Medvedev, you would have known, just by reading his post, full of lines about hordes of Banderite vermin, stinking hogs and greasy pigs. That's classic Medvedev. He's got some kind of fixation on pigs. You can practically hear him snorting with pleasure as he writes. There's a certain hopeless rage and hatred in the way he writes. It must be hard for him. His liver's probably still shaking from yesterday's drone raids Ukraine launched deep into Russia, scaring off foreign guests ahead of the parade. Airports are blocked again. And now he's whining that people will demand a 30-day ceasefire. But through Medvedev's mouth, it's Putin talking, saying that he never wanted a ceasefire in the first place. He'll stop only when he's forced to. Meanwhile, Trump is playing the fool. This whole post of Medvedev's is just his way of responding to last night's heavy drone and ballistic missile attack on Kyiv. According to official speakers, around 200 drones and up to 10 ballistic missiles were launched. It was a loud, terrifying night. Many people heard those buzzing Iranian shaheds, especially when they change altitude. Frontline towns live in constant alarm. There are strikes everywhere. Let me take a moment to send my regards to everyone hanging on there. This was their attempt to say, you strike Russia and ballistic missiles will hit your capital. Some of my European acquaintances, and I won't even mention the Russians, genuinely wonder, why does Ukraine keep resisting? Why strike back knowing that the Kremlin's bloodthirsty gang will retaliate? Well, that's exactly why. Because Ukraine hits back, knowing the scum will respond. And that's why Kyiv didn't fall in 3 days. That's why there was no parade on Kreshchatyk. For Putin, the resistance of Ukrainians was a shock. Medvedev, though, he's another story. I can just picture how miserable he is, sitting on a kiddie chair like the ones they give toddlers in restaurants, with his head pounding, scribbling angry nonsense about piglets and banderites. He's not even scary, just pitiful. Whenever he threatens, I picture him like a toy knight from the Mesozoic era. Remember those plastic red sets with shield, sword and helmet? That's Medvedev in my mind, squealing like a leprechaun soaked in vodka, desperately trying to feel important in history, even though he has no role at all. He keeps ranting about pigs. We'll keep hearing about it. And since we're on childhood memories, weren't there characters that were supposed to be fun but were actually terrifying, like Kuklachov? That clown gave me nightmares. There was even a toy clown with his face, press its cheek and it grinned. Total horror. I always felt Kuklachov tortured his cats. And sure enough, he's a die-hard Putinist. I found an interview with him. Here's a quote so you understand how deep the rot goes. Our people have now seen what the West and Europe will do to us if, God forbid, they win. They'll shoot us like partridges, implant chips to enslave us. That's how this clown thinks. Sad, incurable, and it shows why the border with Russia should be absolutely sealed. Dig trenches, build walls, mine the borders, whatever it takes. Medvedev, by the way, has a personal grudge against the West. In June 2022, his son was kicked out of the US, given 48 hours to leave California. Back in 2019, actor Stas Sadowski revealed that Medvedev's son had business and even applied for citizenship there. Gas stations and cafes, apparently. So what was he doing in the decaying West? He should have stayed home. Eventually, he returned and joined the ruling United Russia Party. Good riddance. People ask, why does Ukraine strike back knowing Putin will retaliate? Well, here's the answer. Last night, 2 important Russian facilities were hit by unknown drones. One, the Azot plant in Tula region, had a gas pipeline damaged and acid storage tanks hit. It's one of the largest producers of ammonia and components for explosives. The other was the Energia plant in Yelets, hit for the second time recently. They manufacture chemical power sources, including batteries for Iskander cruise missiles and guided aviation bombs. Disrupting this plant could cripple Russia's missile planning capabilities. Of course, officials say everything was shot down, as always, but locals report evacuations 10 kilometers from the site. Back to news. The EU is considering disconnecting over 20 Russian banks from SWIFT and lowering the oil price cap from $60 to $40. They're also banning Russian and Belarusian fertilizers, a massive hit. Russia had begged for those sanctions to be lifted. Meanwhile, Trump has decided to impose sanctions not on Russia but on the EU. Starting June the 1st, he's introducing 50% tariffs on EU goods. He writes that negotiations with Europe failed, so he recommends immediate tariffs. Unless they move their factories to the US, then no tariff. If they come talk to him, he might offer a delay. This trade war logic means dictators like Putin feel untouchable. The result? Kim Jong-un receives missile tech from Putin in exchange for weapons and troops. North Korea just tested a new medium-range air-to-air missile from a MiG-29, likely developed with Russian help. Kim was there personally, laughing like a child, cigarette in hand, inspecting copied Western drones and celebrating. North Korea's military is leveling up. And thanks to signed agreements, Putin has pledged to support Kim if he goes to war. And why shouldn't Kim believe he can start one? No dictator is being punished. On the contrary, they're offered trade deals, sanctions are lifted, and they get away with murder. Literally. Lavrov, meanwhile, just made a strange announcement. Russia is preparing a peace proposal to send Ukraine once the prisoner exchange concludes. The second stage of the exchange just happened, 307 for 37. And more stages are planned next week. But here's the trick. Lavrov claims the document will contain terms for a global, long-term agreement, but immediately adds, there are no deadlines. Sounds fishy. They just want to stall, to grab more land without triggering more sanctions. Trump, meanwhile, shows that the highest bidder wins. That's how he operates. He may soon declare, I'm done Ukraine and Russia, figure it out yourselves, I've got towers to build. His Sauron towers, perhaps. But for Putin, this isn't ideal. If Trump walks away, Europe might wake up, Ukraine might get more weapons, and the tide might shift. Meanwhile, Trump's VP candidate J.D. Vance recently said the US is no longer a global leader. There are rivals with Asia, or Russia, China. Seriously? Russia a rival? It's a rusting pile of nukes held up by oil exports. Push a little, and the whole regime collapses. And so we live in this absurdity. Oh, and Lukashenko? He's panicking, spouting nonsense about how girls no longer want to have children and how his generation has worn itself out. His idea of a woman's role? Produce peasants for his kingdom. Putin, meanwhile, wants Russian women to bear more cannon fodder. If he fully loses it, he might even start a bloodbath with WMDs. Nemtsov was right about him. So here's our regular signal to the universe. Find all these war criminals in their underground bunkers and neutralize them. And to everyone out there, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. Peaceful day to all. Slava Ukraini.